Have you ever noticed that the moments when you're truly alone can feel the loudest? Not because of noise around you, but because of the thoughts inside your head. We live in a world where being alone almost feels like a punishment. People scroll endlessly on their phones, they fill their calendars with meaningless plans, and they run from silence like it's some kind of enemy. But let me tell you something, your alone time is never wasted. In fact, it's one of the most valuable gifts you'll ever give yourself. Because in that silence, in that space where no one else is influencing you, that's where you find out who you really are. Think about it. When was the last time you were truly by yourself? No distractions, no noise, just you. Most people can't even remember. They confuse solitude with loneliness, as if being on your own means something is wrong with you. But here's the truth. Your alone time is where you build clarity, where you recharge, where you sharpen yourself for the life you're supposed to live. It's the time that no one sees, the hours spent in silence, that actually shape the strongest version of you. So the real question is this: are you avoiding being alone because you fear it, or are you using it because you understand its power? When you step into solitude, you step away from the noise of the world, and for the first time, you can actually hear yourself think. Every day, we are bombarded with opinions, judgments, and endless information telling us who we should be, what we should want, and how we should live. It's like standing in the middle of a crowded room where everyone is shouting at you, and you're just trying to figure out your own voice. But when you're alone, the noise begins to fade. The opinions of others fall silent, and the only voice left is yours. That's clarity. That's where decisions are no longer made out of pressure, but from a place of truth. Clarity doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It takes intention. Alone time is where you sort through the chaos in your head, where you reflect on what actually matters, and where you realize which things you've been carrying that don't belong to you. Maybe it's other people's expectation. Maybe it's the fear of disappointing someone. Maybe it's the weight of living a life designed to please others instead of yourself. In solitude, all of that comes to the surface, and while it may feel uncomfortable, it's exactly what you need, because you can't change what you're unwilling to confront. The people who never allow themselves solitude often live on autopilot. They go through life reacting, not deciding. They jump from one distraction to the next, trying to fill the silence because the silence feels intimidating. But clarity only comes when you stop running from that silence and lean into it. Alone time forces you to ask yourself the hard questions. Who am I? What do I want? Am I living a life that's mine or one designed by someone else? The truth is, you can't create a meaningful path in life if you're constantly following other people's footsteps. You need space to see your own. Solitude gives you that space. It gives you room to think, to evaluate, to connect dots you never noticed before. It's in those quiet moments that your biggest breakthroughs come. The right idea, the solution to a problem, the realization that something in your life needs to change. Those things rarely come when you're surrounded by constant noise. They come when you're alone, when your mind finally has room to breathe. So if you want clarity in your life, stop fearing solitude. Step into it, protect it, because the answers you're searching for are not out there in the crowd. They're inside you, waiting to be heard. When you're constantly surrounded by people, noise, and obligations, you burn out without even realizing it. You give a piece of yourself away every time someone demands your attention. Every time you say yes when you want to say no. Every time you scroll for hours just to fill the emptiness. That's why alone time is not just important. It's essential. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. Just like your phone needs to be plugged in to recharge, so do you. The difference is, most people don't even notice when their energy is running on low. They keep pushing, keep showing up for everyone else, until one day they wake up exhausted, drained, and disconnected from themselves. Being alone gives you the chance to hit pause. It's where your mind, your body, and your emotions get to reset. It's not laziness to step back. It's strategy. Alone time is where you gather the strength to keep going, where you fill yourself back up so you have something real to give to the world. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. When you're constantly in motion, constantly giving, constantly available, you deplete yourself. And eventually, when you hit that wall of burnout, you won't have anything left. Not for your work, not for your relationships, and not for yourself. Think about how good it feels to finally sit in silence after a chaotic day. The stress starts to loosen its grip, your thoughts begin to settle, and you can feel your shoulders drop from the tension you didn't even know you were holding. That's the power of recharging. You can't find that in a crowded room or an endless conversation. You find it in solitude. In that stillness, your nervous system calms down, your creativity returns, and your perspective sharpens. What once felt overwhelming suddenly feels manageable, simply because you gave yourself the space to breathe. So many people mistake being busy for being productive. But productivity without rest is a slow path to self-destruction. Alone time is what allows you to sustain yourself long-term. It gives you energy, clarity, and balance. And here's the truth. When you learn how to recharge on your own, you stop depending on other people to fill you. You no longer need constant validation or distraction. You become self-sufficient. That kind of independence is powerful because it means no one else controls your peace. So don't see alone time as wasted hours. See it as an investment. It's in those quiet, intentional moments of solitude that you rebuild your strength and prepare yourself for whatever comes next. Every great idea, every breakthrough, every moment of real growth comes from space. Not from the chaos of constant noise, not from the pressure of keeping up with everyone else, but from stepping back and giving yourself room to think. Creativity doesn't thrive in crowded schedules and endless distractions. It needs silence, it needs solitude, it needs breathing room. And growth is no different. You can't evolve if you never pause long enough to reflect, to learn, and to allow yourself the time to become more than who you were yesterday. When you're always surrounded by people or buried in the busyness of life, your mind is reactive. It's stuck in survival mode, focused on the next task, the next demand, the next responsibility. In that state, there's no space for imagination. There's no room for new ideas to take root because you're too busy putting out fires. But when you carve out alone time, you shift from reacting to creating. Your thoughts start to wander. Your mind begins to connect patterns, and ideas that were buried under the noise finally rise to the surface. That's why some of your best ideas come in the shower, on a quiet walk, or late at night when the world is still. Because solitude creates the conditions for creativity to breathe. Growth also requires discomfort, and solitude provides that. When you're alone, you face yourself without filters, without distractions, without the comfort of constant company. And that's not always easy. You might notice the mistakes you've been avoiding, the habits you need to break, or the dreams you've been ignoring. But this confrontation is exactly what drives growth. Because you can't grow if you're hiding from the truth. Alone time forces you to look in the mirror and ask, am I becoming the person I want to be? And if the answer is no, solitude gives you the space to start changing that. The world wants you busy. It wants you distracted. It wants you to consume, not create. That's why solitude feels so radical. It's you taking back control of your time, your energy, and your mind. And when you use that space intentionally, you discover abilities, passions, and strengths you didn't even know you had. Alone time becomes the soil where creativity and growth take root, and without it, you're just running in circles, stuck in the same patterns. So instead of fearing empty space, embrace it, protect it, because in that space lies your next idea, your next breakthrough, your next level of growth. When you spend time alone, you learn to stand on your own 2 feet. Most people don't realize how dependent they are on the presence, approval, or validation of others until they're stripped of it. They feel anxious when they're not constantly connected, uncomfortable when they're not surrounded by company, and restless when silence takes over. But here's the truth. If you can't be comfortable in your own presence, you'll always be at the mercy of someone else's. Alone time builds independence because it forces you to trust yourself, to rely on yourself, and to believe that you are enough without the constant reinforcement of the outside world. Independence is not just about making money or living on your own. It's about emotional strength. It's about being able to sit with your thoughts, process your emotions, and find stability within yourself instead of searching for it in other people. When you constantly seek distraction from others, you give away your power. You let other people's moods, opinions, and actions dictate how you feel. But when you practice solitude, you take that power back. You realize you can manage your own happiness, your own peace, and your own sense of worth without needing someone else to provide it. This doesn't mean you cut yourself off from the world. It means you stop depending on it for your identity. Alone time teaches you that your confidence isn't built on how many friends you have, how many likes you get, or how much attention you receive. It's built on knowing who you are when nobody's watching. When you become comfortable being alone, you stop making desperate choices just to avoid loneliness. You stop settling for toxic relationships, meaningless conversations, or shallow connections just to fill the silence. You start choosing from strength, not from fear. Think about how powerful that is. When you no longer need anyone to complete you, every relationship you build becomes healthier. You're no longer clinging to people out of need. You're connecting with them out of choice. You bring your whole self into relationships instead of fragments of someone trying to be filled. That kind of independence doesn't make you cold. It makes you free. It gives you the strength to walk away from what doesn't serve you, the courage to stand up for yourself, and the resilience to keep going even when life gets heavy. So don't see alone time as isolation. See it as training. It's where you sharpen your independence, where you learn to stand strong on your own, and where you build the kind of confidence that no one can take away from you. When you learn to be comfortable in your own company, you transform the way you connect with others. Most people enter relationships, whether friendships, family dynamics, or romantic partnerships, from a place of need. They look for someone else to fill their emptiness, to distract them from their insecurities, or to give them a sense of worth they haven't yet built within themselves. The problem with that is simple. When you depend on others to complete you, you give them the power to break you. But when you've already built peace within your solitude, when you've already found strength in being alone, you approach relationships from a place of wholeness instead of lack. That is what creates stronger, healthier connections. Being comfortable alone means you're no longer desperate for attention, validation, or constant reassurance. You don't cling to people out of fear of being left behind. Instead, you choose who you let into your life with intention. You're not chasing company just to avoid silence. You're inviting people in because they add value, because they align with who you are, because they bring something real. That shift changes everything. Relationships stop being a crutch and start being a choice. When you've done the work on your own, you also bring more to the table. You're not looking for someone else to carry your burdens. You've learned how to carry them yourself. You're not searching for someone to tell you who you are. You already know. That self-awareness makes your relationships deeper, because you're not just connecting out of need, you're connecting out of strength. You listen better, you respect boundaries more, and you don't try to control or manipulate because you're not afraid of losing. You've already proven to yourself that you can stand alone if you have to, and that confidence allows you to love and connect without fear. Think about the kind of energy that creates, instead of draining people with constant demands. You become someone who inspires trust, respect, and admiration. You become a person who uplifts rather than takes. And that's the kind of connection everyone secretly craves, real, genuine, grounded in strength rather than weakness. So being comfortable alone doesn't mean you isolate yourself forever. It means you prepare yourself. You prepare to build bonds that are stronger, healthier, and more meaningful. You stop settling for surface-level connections because you no longer fear solitude. You already know how to stand alone, and because of that, you get to choose people not out of desperation, but out of love, respect, and true alignment. Alone time is not wasted time. It is the foundation of everything you will ever become. It's where clarity is born, where your energy is restored, where your creativity sparks, where your independence grows, and where you prepare yourself for deeper, stronger connections. The world might tell you that being alone means something is missing, that you should always be surrounded, always be busy, always be on. But that's a lie. The truth is, solitude is not weakness, it's power. Because when you know how to stand strong in your own company, nothing and no one can shake your foundation. So stop running from silence. Stop filling every quiet moment with distraction. Instead, lean into it, protect it, value it. Because the time you spend alone is the time you are investing directly into yourself. And the stronger you become in those private, unseen moments, the more unstoppable you become in the world outside. One day you'll look back and realize it wasn't the noise, the chaos, or the crowd that built you. It was the hours spent in solitude, the conversations you had with yourself, the choices you made when nobody was watching. That's where your strength was forged. That's where you became you. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't see it as emptiness. See it as opportunity, because your alone time is never wasted. It is where you prepare for the life you are destined to live.